Welcome back to the official Colorado Sports Hall of Fame podcast. I'm Dave Plati.
And I'm Jim Saccomano, and we're your co hosts with 88 years of experience working in Colorado sports, myself with the Denver Broncos, and Dave with the CU Buffaloes, and both of us at one time with the Denver Bears, among our many other side experiences.
This week, we are continuing our reveal of the 150 significant moments, including ranking the top 50 in state of Colorado sports history as we head into the state's 150th birthday this August 1st. That date in 1876 that Colorado was admitted to the Union as a 38th state. A select committee of veterans with 350 combined experience covering sports or working in sports in the state of Colorado are selecting these moments that we will count down at the rate of 5 per week and then daily for the top 10 come the end of July.
We've already covered numbers 111 through 150 in our last 8 podcasts. So this week, we are revealing numbers 106 to 110. As we count down, all are being archived in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame website, along with all our podcasts. Go to coloradosports.org, click on the menu bar, and then top 150 moments or podcasts.
And we've had some good guests, especially last week's was Dan Issel. So if you're really interested in Colorado sports, go back and listen to some of those archived podcasts. But before we start counting down, we like to revisit other moments in Colorado sports history that aren't in our top 50 or in or around the date of our podcast. Over 1,960 now have been identified, all chronologically signifying the importance at the time. We are remembering moments that had a significant impact on the state's sports scene. For example,
on March 3rd, 1972, Air Force Academy's Buck Shaw became the first college head coach in the state to be selected for induction into the College Football Hall of Fame. He coached at 5 schools in all, the last being Air Force in 1956 and 1957, the Falcons' first 2 seasons of varsity play. Air Force Academy went 6-2-1 in 56 and 3-6-1 in 57 before he returned to the NFL, where he won the 1960 NFL title with Philadelphia.
Let's go back almost 80 years ago to March 1st, 1947. After literally 15 years of pursuit, University of Colorado Athletic Director Harry Carlson's pitch to join the Big Six, then also known as the Missouri Valley Intercollegiate Athletic Association, was finally granted. The Buffaloes became full-fledged members of the league later that year on December 1st. The 6 members, Iowa State, Kansas State, Missouri, Nebraska, and Oklahoma, all approved adding CU, but the move caused a lot of angst in the old conference, particularly with in-state rivals Colorado A&M, now Colorado State, Utah, and Wyoming.
On March 3rd, 1980, it was not a joyous end to a 40-year coaching career, but Southern Colorado battled Regis to the end, 3 times before falling 80-72 in 3 overtimes in the first round District 7 playoff game, the last for Coach Harry Simmons. The Chief, as he was known, compiled a 603-326 record in 35 seasons at the Pueblo School, which started out as Pueblo Junior College. It was also the final game for Tony White, who scored 23 points and finished as the school's all-time assist leader to this day with 443 in 80 games. That's a lot of assists. And Herman the Helicopter Phillips, who in 102 games averaged a double-double for his career, 14.1 points, 10.3 rebounds, one of 13 players in state history to do so.
Hey, Jim, this is Tim Simmons, just kind of butting in here. Just want to say the odd thing about my dad's last game. He went up against Lonnie Porter, who, is in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, has won more college basketball games on a 4-year level than anybody else in the state at 538. And 35 years later, Lonnie ended his coaching career. His last game was against Southern Colorado. At that time, I think it was CSU Pueblo. And he lost to the Thunderwolves 85-75. So it was kind of ironic that Lonnie rode my dad out in Southern Colorado, or CSU Pueblo rode and ended Lonnie Porter's career.
Mm-hmm. It is. And, we can never forget these guys. Like Harry Simmons was a while back now, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't significant. He won a lot of ball games, and so did Lonnie. They won a lot of games between them.
Well, that's true. And I mean, obviously, Dave talked about Harry Carlson. He might have been the longest serving AD in the state of Colorado as an athletic director. Was he, Dave? He was there a long time.
1927 through 1965, so it's 38 years.
Hard to top. It's hard to top.
Of course, he didn't have to deal with NIL or a lot of stuff they have to do with today.
It was a blessing.
True. Well, let's go back to March 1st, 2011. Not too recent, not too far back, but let's go to the southwestern part of the state. The Fort Lewis women's basketball team had won 46 straight home games, but the streak came to an end in a 77-66 overtime loss to Adams State in the Division II Central Regional semifinals. So to win 46 straight home games in any sport is up there in state history. You know, the pro team's the longest streak is, I believe, the Broncos won 24 in a row, correct, Jim?
Yeah, that's correct, Dave.
And then the Nuggets are next to 23. So, you know, the colleges obviously have a more varied schedule, but, you know, I think once you win 30 in a row in anything, that's pretty impressive.
Hey, David, we can't forget about Trinidad. And how many did they win at home in a row?
I think they were 74, 75.
Yeah, it was a long one.
I know the one that gets the most noticed nationally was I think Notre Dame's basketball team stopped UCLA's 88 game streak. If back in the mid 70s, if memory serves. At any rate, and now on with the top 150 countdown.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history. Number 110.
On August 25th, 1944, one of the top athletes from northwest Colorado, Louis the Dude Dent, was gunned down by Nazi forces near Troyes, France in World War II. He earned 8 letters combined in football, basketball, and track at Craig High School, and earned a football scholarship at Colorado A&M, where he earned all conference honors and Mountain States Conference's Best All-Around Athlete honor in 1943. He also started in the same 3 sports at CSU. Now, 4 credits shy of earning his degree in mechanical engineering, he was called up to fulfill his officer commission. He was awarded the Silver Star posthumously for gallantry in action against all enemies of the United States. And we're going to have a guest on here shortly, Terry Frei, who did an in-depth story and knows more about Dude Dent than probably anybody else alive.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history. Number 109.
March 4th, 1989. Heading into the final day of the regular season, Colorado State was 11-4 in Western Athletic Conference play, tied atop the standings with New Mexico and 1 game up on Texas El Paso. Coach Boyd Grant wanted to ease the tension among the team, took the Rams to a movie Friday night, Lean on Me. That's the name of the movie. Pat Durham scored 31 points to lead CSU to an 89-72 win, although BYU led 40-38 at the half. The Rams shot 78% from the field in the second half, 14 of 18, including 6 threes, to pull away for a decisive win. Later that day, New Mexico was upset at home by Hawaii, 71-70. CSU was alone in first and won its first conference title since the Mountain States in 1954.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history. Number 108.
In our gatherings, we also like to remember great comebacks. This is one of the greatest in Colorado Avalanche history. On March 3, 1999, Peter Forsberg led the largest comeback in the team's history, scoring 3 goals with 3 assists for 6 points in Colorado's 7-5 win in Miami. With the Panthers ahead 5-0, Forsberg got the Avs on the board at the 18-11 mark of the second period. Colorado then exploded for a team record, tying 6 goals in the third period, with Forsberg scoring the third and final goals, with the other 4 put in the net by 4 different players. The 6 points by Forsberg tied the Avalanche single-game record set by Joe Sakic in 1996.
One of the greatest moments in Colorado sports history. Number 107.
On March 18th, 1950, Colorado College won the state's first NCAA championship, played in Colorado Springs, as the Tigers men's hockey team defeated Boston University 13-4. Chris Ray led the offensive explosion with 4 goals and 2 assists, with Tony Frasca scoring twice and aiding on 2 others as CC poured it on in the third period, scoring 10 goals. Coach Chetty Thompson's team defeated Boston College 10-3 in the semifinals. Colorado Sports Hall of Famer Andy Gambucci was a member of that team. CC, 18-5-1 of the season, scored 190 goals in 24 games, including 10 or more on 9 times. The 13 goals remained the most in a championship game, matched this one time by CC in 1957. Excuse me.
That's a lot of goals.
That's a ton of goals. That's a lot of goals.
Greatest moments in Colorado sports history. Number 106.
On January 1st, 1959, the Air Force Academy, the football program in just its 4th year of existence and ranked number 6, earned its first New Year's Day bowl berth opposite number 10 TCU in the Cotton Bowl. On a cool 48-degree day in Dallas, the teams battled to a scoreless tie, combining for just 458 yards on offense, as well as to fumble the ball 13 times and turn it over 8 times. Air Force, in its first season under Coach Ben Martin, finished 9-0-2, was undefeated against the state schools CU, CSU, and DU, which was a pretty impressive run for just the team in its 4th season, but really playing their only 3rd year of teams that we now recognize as FBS or Division I opponents.
To show you how old I am, Dave, I remember that game in January 1, 1959. I remember that game very well.
I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, that's why I say that. I can't believe how old I am, actually, sometimes.
Well, at this time, we want to welcome a longtime Denver Post sports writer and columnist and author of several books, Terry Frei. Terry, welcome to our podcast.
Thanks, gentlemen. I'm honored.
Honored with us? Thank you.
Yes.
We're honored, Terry.
Thanks for having me.
Well, the first reason we wanted to invite you on was because we penned a piece, you penned a piece on your website, terryfrei.com, about our number 110 moment, Louis Adu Dent. I stumbled onto the story totally by accident in doing some other research, and then you sent me an in-depth piece on that was excellent that you wrote about, dude. I'm not sure when that actually was published, but it was way more than I ever knew. You tracked down a lot of his contemporaries. You said you tracked down a lot of his contemporaries. And tell us how you researched that story and how you brought to light something over 75 years ago.
Well, I was doing a book on the 1942 Wisconsin Badgers, who my father had played for. They won the national championship, all went off the war, and didn't all come back. And I found out when I was doing a story on Bus Bergman of Colorado State, that a lot of their paths had overlapped. So I did multiple versions of this story about the 1942 CU-CSU game because I thought they would have similar stories, and they did. And Adu Dent was one of those guys involved in that 1942 game, which was a real treasure trove of great stories, including CSU's Lieutenant Colonel John Mobley, the Tuskegee Airman, who ended up integrating the CSU football program in 1939. And so I had done a story in that 1942 game, and I realized that there was a lot more there about Dude, and I ended up doing a couple of stories and a piece in the book, Playing Piano in a Brothel, about him. And you remember Don Broxman, though, the former congressman from Colorado, who was a star player for the Buffs, and he had worked with Dude Dent in Craig, Colorado over the summer. And they had joked about that upcoming CSU-CU game, and they became very, very good friends. And Broxman told me a lot about him, and also John Mobley, Lieutenant Colonel John Mobley, who was still alive at the time, told me a lot about Dude Dent having actually run interference, kind of literally and figuratively, for Lieutenant Colonel John Mobley integrating the CSU football program in 1939. So there were a lot of heartwarming stories there. And then, of course, dude went off he was just short of graduation, but he was in ROTC. He got called in shortly before graduation and ended up being killed in action in France in World War II.
Terry, you do a tremendous job. It can never be stated too much, the job you do with the guys that otherwise might be forgotten. I went to college, by the way, with John Mobley's wife, Edna.
Edna, yeah. Who ended up being a Aurora City Council person for a long time.
Is the dude a legend in his hometown of Craig? We never hear much from that part of the state.
Well, there's an award named after him for one thing, and I did stories where I called up the guys the athletes who won that award, and they were honored to be having won an award named after dude, Louis Dent. And he, so yeah, his spirit lives, and his image lives, and his history lives to this day in that area. And you remember, I'm going to go off track on you guys. You're talking about guys in that World War II era. You remember Bob Spicer? Remember that name? He was a CU star player who went over. It was involved in the Fierce Island fighting in the Pacific, and it ended up losing an eye in the battle on Okinawa, and he ended up coming back to play baseball at CU with one eye. He had one eye, and he played a couple of years of baseball at CU. Because I never had that experience.
Unbelievable.
You know what people forget is how many people went off to war after starting their athletic careers and then came back and were allowed to continue them.
There were a whole lot of guys. My dad played at Wisconsin in 42, 46, and 47, and he was not mowing lawns in that 3-year gap there.
Your dad was a Renaissance.
And of course, he was a coach when he was a coach at the University of Oregon. He never even had it in his coaching biography that he had flown 67 missions in a P-30 fighter.
The great Ahmad Rashad once said, "The worst thing the University of Oregon ever did in its history is accept the resignation of Terry Frei." A great man.
There's several weeks after the 1971 season, and he just got fed up with fighting with the Boosters over such things as whether his young, aggressive staff with John Robinson, George Seifert, and Bruce Snyder knew what they were doing. Of course they did. We found that out. But he had a treasure trove of future coaching prospects on his staff.
And a vision.
We like going off script here, so there's no reason we can take a tangent here. But I think a lot of people know where your dad did wind up. So, and I think Jim knew him well from that certain place he landed. Correct?
I was honored to be.
He was with Denver, Tampa Bay, and Chicago in the NFL before he came back to the Broncos with Dan Reeves, and then ended up a scout and administrator for the Broncos. He just loved football. He's a great football guy.
When we went to the computer age with the laptops and everything, Terry Frei was one of the teachers who taught everybody else how to use it. I mean, this is the guy who couldn't fly. He was a farm boy. He was a great ball player at Wisconsin. Then he goes and he flies in the war, and he eventually teaches computers later on. Astonishing guy. I mean, one of the great people.
Well, I don't want to get too morbid here, but I was at my parents' house. My father passed away, and he was stricken and passed away. He had his laptop open and was doing a scouting report for the Broncos as a scouting consultant on Jeff Backus, a tackle from Michigan. And he ended up, that was on his screen when he passed away. And that was what he loved doing, was being a scouting consultant at that point in his career.
It's stories and moments like this that we hope to keep alive in our top 150 project for the Hall of Fame. Shifting gears, Terry, you've penned some great books on history, both in and out of the state. The Texas-Arkansas 69 game, a classic in college football. There's one you wrote about the 77 Broncos season. And one of my favorites, the very first March Madness, because that did have a tie-in to CU. Do you have a favorite, and how did you select some of those topics to write yourself?
Well, my favorite book right now is the novel Olympic Affair and the other novel, The Witch's Season. I'm very enthusiastic about the two novels I've done. And it almost just depends on what side of the bed I get up on. With, it's like having 5 children. You're proud of them all. And as you guys know, the March 1939, before the madness, was about the first NCAA basketball tournament taking place against the backdrop of gathering war clouds over in Europe and around the world. And so but it also involved a certain team from this state deciding to turn down an invitation to the NCAA tournament. They could have been the first NCAA champions, the Bucks, but they turned it down. They had traveled a lot that year. They'd been to New York. They had won the NIT the year before. And I don't ever want to hear that crap about how the NIT was better than NCAA at that point. And I know, Dave, you disagree with me, but that's not true.
Well, I think also
I think I documented it extensively in the book March 1939.
And a lot of our players had the flu too, right?
Yeah.
You spent almost 4 decades at the Denver Post, unheard of today. What were your favorite beats and your most memorable stories?
I really enjoyed covering hockey for the most part. And it was really kind of funny because that's not the sport I played. It's not the sport I was most natural at. My best sport was baseball. When it was as told Dave Logan that he still owes me a lot for helping. I owe him a lot for helping me set the state record for most passed balls in a season and at Wheat Ridge. So yeah, I enjoyed being it. That was my athletic glory here in Colorado. But for the most part, I was covering hockey over the years, and I covered virtually everything. I covered the NFL with the Broncos and the NFL at large when I was at the Sporting News. I enjoyed that job probably most of anything I ever did was working for the Sporting News. I enjoyed the hybrid role as columnist or beat writer. I really enjoyed going to the Olympics. I enjoyed going to the major events. So I mean, I can look back with great fondness on the extent of my career, but I was best at writing profiles of letting you get to learn about the athletes and the people in sports, and I was a narrative journalist.
You sent me that clipping where you and Dave Logan were teammates on Wheat Ridge's baseball team, the Battery, and you caught a no-hitter from Dave. Memories of that game in particular?
Well, I think it was we won 4-2, and I think there were wild pitches and errors and pass balls figured in that thing. That's good old high school baseball. Dave was a tremendous pitcher. Probably throwing 95 miles an hour at that time. He was just a great. I don't have to tell anybody this. He was just a great athlete and the most competitive guy I've ever been around, which is a manifested in his coaching career too. We were kind of out there to have fun. And in his third sport, baseball, he was as serious as he was about anything else.
What made you decide to play catcher?
Because I was 5'8" in the 6th grade, and my father was an offensive line coach. Everybody thought I'd just be big. I just stopped growing, and I think there were a lot of people who have fallen to this fate of just getting to a certain height and just not growing any bigger. I looked like a catcher when I was young. I was a big kid. And I also remember when we moved to Wheat Ridge, and it was in the middle of my junior year, and I came out the first day of practice in baseball, and Red Coates, the Wheat Ridge football coach, came out to watch me at baseball practice because everybody figured that since I was a pretty good athlete and also had played quarterback in football. Everybody thought I was going to be a big, strong, big kid. But when Red came out to baseball practice, saw me and my 5'7", 150 pounds, and everybody laughed because they knew everybody knew that he thought he was getting a Bronco assistant coach's kid, which he was, but I was not what everybody thought I'd be.
Mike Monroe, your colleague at the Post, once told me the nickname for the catcher or something was like you donned the tools of ignorance. Does that sound right?
Yes. Yes. I
never
call it
understood that
the
phrase.
tools of intelligence.
Yeah, that's right. In your case, there's the tools of intelligence. Finally, Terry, are you still writing much these days in your retirement?
I'm still writing for my own website some, and I've got a couple of novels in the can, and I'm hoping to keep progressing that way. I love writing novels. I love being a narrative storyteller there too, and I am enjoying myself.
Good.
So
Have you
everybody
written
can
a
check
couple
out
of
Terry
screenplays?
Frei, Terry, TerryFrei.com. I've done 3 screenplays, all the adaptations of my books, and they're floating around out there. Have gotten some action, some flirts, but we haven't gotten in front of the camera yet.
Well, if you go to Terry's website, you will see a list on the left-hand side of his archive stories, and there are quite a few about Colorado sports history. So I would advise anybody that's really into what we're doing and with this project to go to Terry's website and take a look at those. And yes, Terry is on our selection committee for the top 150 because there are very few people in the state that really fit into the narrative that we want, selecting these top 50 moments and ranking the top 50 moments and then putting the 150 together all together. So, Terry, I want to thank you for taking the time out to join us today.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. I enjoyed it.
Terry,
Sorry to take you far afield.
we hope you're enjoying our podcast. Keep spreading the word. We want to thank our sponsors, Pasta J's of Boulder, located at 10th and Pearl, just west of the Pearl Street Mall, and the Colorado Collegiate Chronicle, published by Tim Simmons, another veteran PR man in the state. That publication provides an in-depth look at college sports around the state. If you haven't looked at it, you've just got to. The Colorado Collegiate Chronicle. And the voice of the Buffaloes, Mark Johnson, for introducing each moment's number.
Which fortunately he did for us before he ran into his last accident, this time with a cow. But Mark's recovering. He missed his first CU basketball game over the weekend, which it was 102-62 loss at Houston. So if you're going to miss one, that's the one to miss. At any rate, that's a wrap on our 18th podcast. Tune in next week for the next reveal of the state's top 150 moments. We hope you're enjoying our reminiscing with our Colorado Sports Hall of Fame guests, as well as our trips down memory lane in the state's sports history. A reminder that the Hall offers tours of its museum, as well as in Power Field at Mile High Stadium, and that the class of 2026 will be inducted on April 16th at the Hilton City Center in downtown Denver. Thanks for listening.